again, everyone, and welcome once again to the Credit Bank Small Business Spotlight, where we spotlight inspiring business owners. We're going to learn their stories, but they're also going to share with us what drives their success. This episode is sponsored by Credit Bank, where you can get up to $500,000 in working capital with monthly payments in less time than it takes to drive to the bank. I'm your host, Irv Cruz, and today I am joined by David Banasakher. He is the owner of Paradine Services LLC. David, thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me, Irv. I really appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. David, I start everything off by going back to the very beginning. Why did you start Paradine Services LLC?
So the reason why I started Paradine Services is, I'm sure you've heard and you've interviewed people and spoken to many people that have had a very similar start, and that's being just born a salesman in a sense. I was selling chocolates in school. You know, I was renting out my Nintendo DS in school. I was always doing something to make money. And with that being said as well, my family on my father's side, at least, we were very tech driven people. And, you know, thankfully, due to him, I remember being 3 years old. He's a professor in computer science, and I've been using a computer since I was 3, right? So I've always had that tech sort of background. My brother, same type of thing as well. He's doing AI sort of things with the government right now, and that's really inspired me to kind of go down that path. But in my heart, I've always liked sales. I've always liked business, so that kind of drove me down this path. And now I launched a service-based business around food, and we distribute food online through third-party marketplaces such as Amazon, Walmart, Temu, essentially every single platform you can think of online. So that's kind of how I got my start into that.
So, you know, when you were thinking about launching the business and getting into that space, you know, as I discussed with other guests, you know, most businesses are born because they've identified a problem or looking to address a need. What specific problem does your business solve, and who actually benefits the most from your business's services?
Yeah, most definitely. And I will say this. So a lot of the people that we help actually is brands. And just think about starting a brand. That takes a lot of time. I mean, you have to first think of the product. You have to then develop the product, work with manufacturers, do the branding. And just so much goes into it. And then you have to figure out the retail side of things, distribution.
Right.
All of this stuff, it's very time consuming and very draining, right? And now do all of that on top of trying to tackle the behemoth that Amazon is, right? That's a whole nother animal in itself. And that's where we come in. We have a full-time business dedicated to partnering with brands, helping them scale their products, whether they're already on these third-party marketplaces or if they're just getting their, first steps in. That's where we come in. We go ahead and do A to Z services for these brands, and not just services, but we actually purchase the products from the brand so they can get their cash up front. You know, so they're not waiting on net terms with Amazon and all of that type of stuff.
Right.
We're purchasing the product, and then from there we're going ahead and marketing it, doing the product photography, the SEO, the advertising outside of the platforms, on the platforms. Everything you can think of, we do to give brands the freedom and more time to do what they do best, and that's building a brand.
And do you also handle the distribution of the product as well?
So yeah, that's part of the warehouse actually in the background right there. So yeah, we handle everything.
Oh, okay. So when you were first launching your business, and you came up with the idea, it can be tough at the very beginning to procure the financing needed to launch your idea or launch your dream, if you will, into a reality. So how did you manage that early
And you're right. And honestly, it was a bit of luck. I will say this.
on? Oh, do tell.
Yeah. I was in college actually, and for me, I've always been good at school. But I always had to try hard, right? And it was never my interest. And I was doing computer science, and thankfully, in a sense for me, but not for the rest of the world, COVID happened. And I say that to say, virtual school ended up being a thing, and I could barely focus in class as it was. And I could barely focus when it came to virtual school. So I kind of decided that gave me a lot of time, I guess, to try to pursue business full time in a sense. And with that being said, I stumbled upon a business model called drop shipping. in which I didn't have to put up money up front necessarily. A
Right.
customer came to me, they purchased the product, I have the money, and then I can purchase the product. So thankfully, I did fairly well, I would say. I mean, I scaled my business. I started with only $5,000 and we scaled that to 2.1 million in revenue in my first year, actually. So that gave me the capital to then dump that into this existing business right now, where we have a whole facility and we're actually purchasing the products up front and then distributing, and now adding the service aspect into it. But of course, capital issues have arisen now that we're doing that. And that's where we have to get creative and really build relationships with brands and build relationships with distributors to get access to longer and stronger net terms.
And how did you market you? How did you get your name out there and in a way that differentiates you from others in the space?
For me, I believe, and this goes with every aspect of business that I've personally dealt with, and that's quality over quantity. I remember going to
Well
my
said.
first trade show and I spoke to over 40 people, but I only connected with one person. And that one person that I connected with, I built a strong connection with. And I mean, we became genuine friends. And that one person introduced me to more people. And that person that
Right.
I connected with introduced me to more. And it was a snowball effect. I'm not trying to be friends with everyone. I'm not trying to do business with everybody. I see who aligns with me and who I genuinely like and take interest in their brand as much as they take interest in their brand or their product or whatever it is. And I try to focus on those people and work with them to build their future and their what they're envisioning for their product.
Yeah, so it's not only resonating with certain people, it's resonating with people that share the same passion as you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell us a
Yeah.
little more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll say this. So, for me, I personally bond with people that have the same background as me, whether that's religious background, whether that's cultural background, ethnicity, whatever
Okay.
the case is. And I've personally found that because both my parents are immigrants, we share a lot of the same stories, and I really encourage everyone to try to find your group of people. You know, whether you're a minority, whether you're not, there's always somebody that you guys kind of grew up together and with the same
Right.
types of stuff, you know, and you can really share that with each other and just kind of laugh about the past or whatever the case is. And for me, at least, that's what I've found has really helped build my connections in these industries. And I guess on top of that as well, just doing good by people. I have noticed that I've met a lot of people that don't seem that they're genuine, don't seem like they really care about you as a person, whether they're trying to sell something to you or you're trying to
Right.
buy something from them. I really believe that if you are truthful and you're honest in business, good things come and you'll meet the right people, and the fake will weed out, you know? So I went on a bit of a tangent there, but
No, no, that's fine because that's actually, very important. And what you said is something that you pick up almost immediately. If you're into, just feeling energies like I am,
exactly.
you just know, and you don't have to be face to face. It could be a phone call, and you can just kind of feel that energy and just know if you either resonate with this person, if they're sincere, etc., or not. And the good thing about that, I mean, it has its pros and cons, but the good thing about that is it can save you time and allow you to quickly just weed out the fluff so that fluff doesn't waste your time, because as you're trying to build your business, time in and of itself is a very valuable asset.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that'll promise you that they're this, they're that, or they can, they can do, we've all heard these stories,
Yeah, 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 I
fake
know.
salesmen. And the sooner you start spotting those people, as you said, I mean, the quicker you can kind of navigate around them and really find the true, genuine people that are here to build something with
Yeah.
you.
And how long have you been in business, David?
Officially, as in like when I got my first LLC,
Yeah.
it's been about coming up on 5 years now. But I've always been doing something, whether it's reselling like clothing or whatever the newest trends are. I've been doing that since I really started pushing towards that in high school, like ninth grade.
Okay. And within those 5 years, share with our listeners, about some of the challenges in launching a new business. What would you say was your biggest challenge, And equally as important, share with us how you overcame those challenges.
Yes. So, I mean, the first one that I encountered was time management, and not in the traditional sense, but for me, it was more of a balance between life and work. And I feel as though genuinely I pushed myself a little bit too far at first for the first 2 years. And I was sitting in front of my computer at least 12 hours a day, just constantly doing stuff. And I didn't have time for family and friends. And there's some times where I truly believe you do have to go through that period, but
Right.
I was very hard on myself for not being able to continue that. And then I finally realized, hey, I'm actually burnt out. I need to take a step back. It's okay to not feel good one day and not work. That was the first biggest challenge for me. And I guess after that point came cash flow. And I remember once I stopped the drop shipping aspect of the business and we got our first facility and started shipping out truckloads, um, I didn't realize at the time, a few years back, that we shouldn't be that over leveraged. I was over leveraged in a sense.
Right.
And what ended up happening was a full truckload got lost for 45 days. And that was all of my money. I mean,
Wait,
one pallet,
hold on. I got to stop you there. How does that happen?
right? That's a good question.
How does that happen? Share with us.
I, I genuinely, it's interesting. So Amazon Logistics, sometimes they'll never tell you the real answer. But this is a common issue. I have no clue what happened with ours. It was eventually found. But even just last week, I was at a trade show. I spoke to a brand who they had a full truckload lost forever, and Amazon is refusing to pay them for their goods. This is a common issue, unfortunately. And it doesn't make sense, but it does happen, unfortunately. But thankfully for me, it was found. And in my case, what ended up happening was I had to actually enroll in the American Express Financial Relief Program for a year because I was like a few months behind on my credit card bills now because of this inventory. Now it has to sell, and then I have to wait for the money to come back, and it completely screwed a bunch of stuff for me. And that's when I realized, hey, we need to make better financial decisions. We cannot be this over leveraged. Why are we sending out this much inventory on one truck, especially in Q4 during the holiday season? It's not a smart idea. So we've definitely learned from that as a team.
So 5 years, you're rocking and rolling. When you look back, what would you say is your absolute biggest achievement or your proudest moment thus far?
For me, I would say, and I truly think that no matter what level I get to in life, and I have very large dreams and aspirations, and I won't stop until I get there. But no matter what, I think that for me, it was the mindset shift that I had in December of 2020. I read about half of the book, Think and Grow Rich, and that first half changed my life.
Excellent
So
book.
I can't imagine what the other half will do if it's helped me this much. But um, for me, I read that, I learned how to make goals, and I was able to structure my goals that I had, in my head. And the first thing I did every single morning was when I wake up, I'd pick up this piece of paper, I'd read my goals. The last thing I'd do at night, I read these goals, and it's the first and the last thing I would think about every day. And for me, just basically having that mindset shift and really putting something into action and being able to turn $5,000 into a $2.1 million revenue generating business in my first year. For me, I don't think I can ever have that feeling again, no matter what level or new thing I really do, honestly. I was a completely different person prior to starting that business. And there'll be nothing like that.
So you built the business from 5,000 to 2.5 million in your first year. Um, where are you now?
Currently, right now, we're doing about 4.5, and this year I'm thinking we're going to stay stagnant around that range, actually, because we're doing a lot of different shifts. I'm trying to really go hard on this brand services aspect of things, because right
Right.
now a lot of our business is still just purchasing products from brands and selling them, but we're trying to shift more towards that partnership aspect with brands. I think we're going to be around here, and then next year we're really going to grow significantly. So
That's actually my next question. Where do you, in your mind's eye, but because you seem to have visionary qualities, if you will,
thank you.
and I really admire that, and I certainly respect that inner part of you where that comes from. I think that's actually something special, and that's great information that you shared with our listeners.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
so you mentioned you might be here this year, but not even a year from now. Where do you see yourself? 2 years from now?
2 years from now, I see ourselves onboarding significantly more brands, but again, quality over quantity. I don't want to overextend ourselves with just having a bunch of brands. I could onboard a lot of brands now, but they wouldn't align with my vision. I see ourselves having a much larger facility, about 15 to 20,000 square feet. Right now, we're a little over 5,000 here. And also, I want to start building our own brands. Right now, we're working on a reusable bread bag that there's some on the market, but there's nothing like what we are building right now.
Hmm.
And I want to really take my team's talent, my talent as well, and really put that into our own brand and really start pushing this into retail stores as well as online. And on top of that, going back to my tech background, I'm in the midst of building a software right now to kind of bridge the gap between small retail stores and distributors. These retail stores don't really know what good pricing means. I do, thankfully, because we purchase heavy from a lot of people, and I'm creating like a brokering system essentially that's allowing retailers to get access to the best possible pricing that they can at their level. So really, just having a finalized software as a service, as well as scaling this business.
That's wonderful. If you had, so say for example, if you had the perfect resources in place right now and the support, whether it be financing, uh, additional team members, etc., what would change for your business immediately that you feel would take you to that next level that you want to get to?
I mean, sorry, could you rephrase the question a bit, just so I?
Yeah, sure. I was asking, I'll actually rephrase it completely. If there's one thing, given the right opportunity, that you can change about your business tomorrow, having the proper resources and support in place to do that, what would that be?
For me, I would say a sales team. And one thing that I've had to learn is honestly, it's okay to step back. I went too heavy with delegation when I first started the business, and that came back to bite me. And then I started micromanaging in a sense, and
Right.
that also came back to bite me. I've learned the balance now, and I would say that for us right now, a sales team is very imperative to get us to the next level. Right now, like for example, I was just in Chicago for a few days, then I flew to California to Expo West. I came back here. I was in Fort Lauderdale yesterday for a day. I drove back to Daytona Beach. I'm all over the place, and it's extremely hard for me to have a good balance of life and business when I'm having to run around everywhere while also managing the business on top of trying to make sales. So I would say a sales team is definitely where our next step
Okay.
to
Well, David,
create
it's
some more
been
structure.
really fantastic learning about Paradine Services and how you're making a difference in that space that you're occupying. For those of our viewers and listeners that would like to connect with you, how would they find you?
You can find me at paradineservices.store, or you can email me at info@paradineservices.store.
Okay. Well, David, thank you once again for sharing your story with us. And to our listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode and have been inspired by this gentleman's journey, be sure to subscribe and tune in for more inspiring business spotlights. Until next time, I'm your host, Irv Cruz. We'll see you on the next Credit Bank Small Business Spotlight. David, continued success.
And you as well, Irv. I appreciate everything. Thanks for having me on. And I wish you guys the best of success with this podcast as well. And
Well, thank you very much, sir. If you enjoyed this video, click here to watch another exciting episode.